Noah Syndergaard obviously is the big name Mets fans are looking at, and if he's close enough to get to the big leagues next season, would you guys be willing to deal more than just the one starter to clear room for Syndergaard?
Well, I think that the old adage is you never have enough pitching, right? And as soon as you think you have enough, you don't. You end up losing a guy to injury or someone doesn't perform the way you'd like. So I think we're going to be careful about dipping into that depth too much. But ideally, we want to be in a position, not just with Noah, but with all of our prospects, that they force us to make a move, where we're not bringing them up to the major league team just because we have a need. We're bringing them up to the major league team because they forced their way on their team. There's just nowhere else for them to be, and they can be up there and helping us right away. So we hope Noah can do that. And I don't know if that happens in March or April or June, but I certainly think there's a chance that could happen at some point during 2015.
Paul, one of the guys that's trying to force his way is Matt Reynolds, and there's talk around New York, of course, and evaluators and other organizations, not quite sure whether they like him at second base or shortstop. Where do you view him, and give us a sense of what you think the timeline is for him?
Interestingly, Jim, he was actually a third baseman in college. Right. So this wasn't even a guy who came up as a shortstop, but when we drafted him, we put him at shortstop, really felt like he could handle it, and he's played extremely well defensively. There's no doubt in our minds he can stay at short. We also think he'd be an above-average defender at second base. He's a very steady player, fundamentally very sound, just doesn't make mistakes. People have compared him to a Mark Loretta, Randy Velarde, Mark Ellis, that type of player, just a very steady player, good offensive player, maybe top of the lineup, moves runners over, puts the ball in play, that sort of thing. He had a terrific year last year, started in AA, ended in AAA. He would certainly benefit from a little more time in AAA, but I think sometime in 2015 is realistic for him as well.
Paul, we just heard in the last segment JP talking about the expectations for Travis d'Arnaud this year to continue that rise. That being said, you've got another catcher at the end of the season in AAA last year, Kevin Plawecki, who seems like he's knocking at that door as well. How close is he to being big league ready?
He's really, he and Reynolds have both blown through the system. They were both 2012 drafts and both ended the 2014 season in AAA with half a year in AAA under the belt. So I think both guys went even more quickly than we thought they would when we originally took them. So because of that, it's really only 2 full seasons at this point in the minor leagues, even though they're right there and on the cusp of the major leagues. So I think both guys could certainly benefit from more at-bats at the minor league level. But I think they've shown that if the need were to arise, that they're certainly capable of being ready. And I think Kevin fits in that. There are some things that he's still working on, but his overall game, I think, is very close to being major league ready.
Paul, you talked about Syndergaard's timetable. Now Matz is another guy who you guys talk about, most evaluators talk about as a premium pitcher. Give us a sense of what you think from him in terms of the timeline at the major league level. What does he need to work on next year?
Sure, Matz is an interesting case. He reminds me an awful lot of DeGrom. Now, I'm not predicting he's going to be Rookie of the Year,
right.
But there are a lot of similarities. Both guys were extremely good athletes. Both guys were injured very early in their minor league careers and missed significant time. So they hadn't had a lot of time on the mound. But both are so athletic that once they spend more time on the mound, they just keep getting better. So DeGrom was better in AAA than he was in AA. He was better in the big leagues than he was in AAA. Matz has sort of done the same thing. He was better in high A than he was in low A. He was better in AA than he was in high A. So it's hard to say because those guys keep getting better, and therefore his timetable may accelerate than what a typical guy would be.
Right.
But he's got a great fastball. He's got plus command of it. He's got a very good changeup. The real difference this year was his curveball came a long way, but he's really putting it all together, and he's shown that he's a big game guy. Back in 2013 in the playoffs for Savannah, he was dominant. This year in 2014 for Binghamton, the playoffs, he was dominant. Carried a no-hitter into the 8th inning in what ended up being the championship game for them. So he's on the fast track.
Right. We got to ask you one quick one on your sleeper. Herrera got to the big leagues last year, a little bit of a sleeper. Do you have one this year that maybe sneaks in towards the end of next year?
Boy, that's a good one. There are a lot of good arms. I think there are a lot of good arms, and I think that any one of them could come up. I mean, Dario Alvarez was another one who came a long way this year. He's a guy I think can help us. Corey Mazzoni, not really a sleeper necessarily. Right. You know, one guy people haven't heard a lot about is Matt Bowman. He was also a 2012 draft out of college, out of Princeton actually, but lower down in the draft. We took him after the 10th round. He's also already gotten up to AAA and pitched really well. But smaller guy, Tim Lincecum, like delivery, but another superior athlete. 4 pitches for strikes, really good competitor, and does all the little things well. Controls the running game, fields his position, all those types of things. I think he's a guy who could end up contributing for us quickly here too.